Hi, everybody, and welcome back to yet another cracking edition of the Matt Brown Show. This is the Secrets of Fails series. If you've been caught up in a tree, you would have missed the other 125 episodes or so. So you know what's coming. Epic stories of failure. And with us in the hot seat today is Michael Lee. He is the founder and CEO of a cool company we're going to get into now called Reconciled, company I think I need. Mike, welcome to the show, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Matt.
Yeah, man, that's all good, brother. So look, let's start with the elevator pitch. What exactly are you guys up to over there at Reconciled?
Yeah, Reconciled's an online bookkeeping firm for small businesses and entrepreneurs. And I started about 8 years ago. We serve hundreds of small businesses and entrepreneurs across the U.S.
So is this like any stage of company, or do you have a sweet spot? Like, where does the rubber hit the road for you?
Yeah, most of our customers that are really, really great for us are in the $500,000 to $2 million range. And they probably have, anywhere from half a dozen to a dozen employees that work for them.
Yeah.
And they're growing a lifestyle business. So think of an e-commerce store that's just growing 5% a year, or a digital marketing agency that's growing 10% a year. We don't tend to have a lot of micro companies, although we do have them. We do have pre-revenue and venture-funded startups. We don't have a lot of restaurants or retail stores. So anybody with a physical location, we tend to not do well with those, mainly because most of those businesses are low margin and high volume. So our focus is really mom and pop lifestyle businesses that are generally online, technology native, and have anywhere from half a dozen to a dozen employees and $500,000 to $2 million in revenue.
Yeah. How did you get so clear on who your customer was? I'm curious because you kind of know your shit. So what's up with that?
Well, when you serve hundreds of small businesses like we have in the 8 years of our existence, we've served hundreds, maybe thousands. We've seen a ton of different books, and we've also understood the temperament of the different stages of a business owner and what works perfectly for us. So that's how you learn. You basically take customers on, make mistakes, get to know a lot of businesses, fire a lot of customers, do bad work with a lot of customers.
Yeah.
So that's where you learn where that perfect customer profile is.
Yeah, for sure, man. Tell me, how true is it in America, because I'm relatively new to the States, and because in Africa, like, good luck trying to get any kind of accounting records whatsoever. It's kind of like, here's a whole bunch of manual shit. In fact, we made 1 million. Don't worry about it. We made 1 million. There's like almost zero transactional records, especially in micro enterprises. So you're kind of in this, not micro, but kind of sort of could be, and I'm curious for our audience to understand, like, from your experience, having now done this for, hundreds, thousands and so forth of these businesses, how bad are their books? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, the average guy or girl that comes to you and goes, hey, I'm doing $500K a year, or like that customer profile, like when they fall in that space, like how bad are their books in general?
So the reason I started Reconciled was because every small business I was consulting on my own before Reconciled, their books were generally handled by somebody that was trusted but not trained, right? So think of that. They trust the person doing the books, but they're not trained. So that's usually the owner, a assistant, a spouse, a girlfriend, a volunteer, best friend from college, whatever it is. But most of the time, it's not a person that's trained to actually do record keeping or accounting at all. And so that's a common theme amongst almost all small businesses in the US, especially ones under 5 million in revenue or turnover, as they like to say outside of the US. So most of the time, the way to validate those kinds of things of whether or not it's great or not is you get access to the books. Or just to validate accuracy is you get access to tax returns and bank statements, because the rubber hits the road of what's real on bank statements and tax returns. And so that's how you can kind of validate of whether or not a set of books is accurate or correct. But 95% of the time, they're inaccurate and they're terrible when they're, especially on companies under 5 million in revenue.
And do you think that it's like an afterthought? Because, what I think about is, like you've done, this is your third one, your third company, I've done 14 over the last 25 years. And when I think about those early stages, it's always an afterthought. You know what I mean? It's like, fuck my books. I got to get customers first. You know what I mean? And I'll deal with the accounting later. But before it takes a year, maybe 2 years to really understand, well, who is your customer? Like, okay, well, they're these, like exactly how you so articulated your profile customer, right? And so it takes a long time for all of us really to figure that shit out. And so my sense is, especially when you're like a solopreneur or you're a lifestyle business guy or girl, you're just trying to sell, and then you're like, oh snap, I've got to deliver that thing I just sold, and now I have to deliver. And then it's like, well, then okay, but then I've got party costs, which is my lifestyle, right? I have to support myself and my family and all that stuff. And so then it just becomes the cycle, like it's the figure eight, right? It's kind of like, well, you sell and you deliver, and then you sell and you deliver. And in that figure eight cycle, you don't care about what your books say. And then it's only like when you've got 5 people, and then you're like, oh, okay, actually, I don't need to deliver 100%. I only need to deliver 50%.
Yep.
And so now I look at my books.
Yeah. No, you have a good point. So this is the way I explain it. There's really two explanations for it. One is, no one starts a business because they love accounting, except accountants, right? No one starts a business and then go, I'm doing this because I want to do record keeping. That's not why people start businesses. So that's one, unless you're an accountant and that's what you're studying, you literally don't think about accounting ever. You don't think about it. And secondly, the average human being probably in the world, especially in the US, they're not even keeping track of their own personal finances that well. So just because they start a business doesn't mean they all of a sudden become masters at tracking money or masters at reading numbers. If their personal finances are going to the bank statement online or their banking app to see if there's money there, that's the same practice they're going to take into running their business. Why would it be any different, right? So those are the two reasons why books are not thought of. It is an afterthought. And oftentimes, most small business owners, when they start, they're excited about delivering the product or service that they're passionate about and landing that customer. When then it comes to, wait, I need that customer to pay me now. That's a scary thought for a lot of people, because wherever they worked before, they never were involved in that process, right? If you think about most of us where we work, we never had to collect money from a customer. We never had to go follow up and go, hey, you're late, or deal with a disgruntled customer who's not going to pay you. Well, that's all true now as a business owner. And often for people who are just starting out, that's the first, if ever in their life, they've actually had to deal with money collection from a customer for a service or product they deliver. So we find a lot of business owners, they end up doing the first few things for free because they don't realize, it doesn't click, wait, I need to make money doing this. And there's a step to do that. What is that? Oh, that's invoicing. That's an accounting function. They never had to think about that at previous companies, but they do now. So there's a lot of psychology and human behavior that's just a part of life that affects how we run businesses.
Dude, we needed a whole episode on this, like a full hour, because it's a shit show. Like, it's a total shit show.
It totally is.
Oh my God. But we don't have time for that, dude. We're running out of time here. I'm like in back-to-back today, as you know, I was saying how busy I am right now. But anyway, let's get on to the meat and the potatoes, shall we? What is your epic story of fail for our audience around the world today, brother?
When 4 years into starting Reconciled, I decided to go out and buy my first traditional accounting firm to roll into Reconciled. And I would call that an abysmal failure.
Okay. That is short and sweet, brother. But why? What happened there?
Well, so the goal of buying a company is not so that you could lose most of the employees and the customers that you just purchased. That isn't the goal. The goal is so that you keep most of those customers and you keep most of those employees happy. And that's not what happened.
So curious. So then what actually happened? Like, so you buy a company, I understand the strategy around that, growth through acquisition. So what was the actual issue in the end? Like what was the reason for the failure?
There were two primary reasons why we failed. The first one is that we underestimated how fast the employees of the company we were buying could transition into our systems. So, or maybe better yet, we overestimated. We thought they would be excited and that giving them about 30 days to transition into our payroll system and our internal accounting systems would be exciting for them. And we came to find out really quickly that because we were buying an accounting firm that was already growing very slowly, and most of those employees were not used to a lot of change, that amount of time was not enough for them. So that's one. And then the second reason why it failed is when you're buying a services firm of any kind, including accounting, the key to customer retention is you keep the staff that's delivering the service to happy customers. When that staff transitions and they leave with a middle finger in your face or upset, then the customers that they're serving are not going to be happy in whatever transition you do for them. So those are two big reasons why we failed.
Sure. Epic, brother. So when you think about that whole experience, like, and now moving forward, I mean, obviously your business is very different and so on and so forth. What stands out for you as like a key insight, that you now take forward with you into your business?
One thing is that most people will tell you in an interview or when you meet them that they love change and they want to be part of a fast-growing organization, right? Everybody would have loved to be part of the early days of Facebook or Tesla, you name the fast-growing company. But when push comes to shove, especially for accountants, if you put them in an environment that actually is growing fast at like Facebook level or Tesla level, they absolutely hate it because they don't realize the amount of responsibility and the amount of execution that has to occur to keep up with that growth.
Yeah, that's so well said. Well, here's what I know to be true. If we all love change, we'd all have six packs.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we don't, do we? Yeah, I call it the QDF, or the quick dirty fuck, right? People love the idea of it, but they don't actually want to commit to it. They don't want to get married to it. And that's the difference, right? And I think you said it really well, but I mean, like, we want to believe that we love to change. Oh, yeah, can I change, dude? Yeah. I'm the guy. I'm the girl. But actually, when it comes down to it, it sucks. Change sucks. We like the change we want, right? But the rest, the changes that we don't want, we call problems. And so and then of course it's, I can't believe we're doing this. The water cooler conversation, I can't believe we're doing this. Oh, this guy's a dick. Wow, this person, this. Why are we doing this? I like the way it was. And then suddenly your whole culture goes to shit. And then the ROI on that acquisition also goes to shit.
Yeah. One thing I've learned now I've done 3 accounting firm acquisitions now, and I'm working on my 4th, is the selling owner especially the accounting firm, the selling owner, no matter what they say about wanting to change and let go of control, they're lying through their teeth. It's just not true. There is a type of change they do want that's in their minds, and that's not the change you want as a buyer. It's not even at the same level. The expectations are completely different. And the second one is that change, in order for it to be successful, you need to have buy-in from a lot of people, including your own team that's doing the buying and integrating and stuff, as well as the employees you are bringing over. And that takes a lot of time. Humans don't move as fast as we want them to. Even though like you said, their minds think they can and they want to, the responsibility and execution and the results that have to come from that change, most people aren't up for it. It's very difficult. And so that's why you do see most fast-growing startups, most fast-growing companies, the turnover rate of their employees is very high. Amazon, for example, has almost, I think one of the stats I read is almost 1,000% turnover because of how fast they grow at their warehouses, especially. They grow super fast. And they built their culture to only allow employees to thrive for a 2-year period, and then they're gone. So that is the reality for most fast-growing cultures, is that most human beings can't sustain or keep up with the realities of what the startup life looks like.
100% true, dude. Again, a whole other show. So Mike, if you could get into the Matt Brown Show time machine and kind of go back, when all the wheels were coming off the the integration, what would you do differently and why?
I think the first thing I would do is I would have sat down with my leadership team and those that were involved in integrating the firm we were buying and laid out clear expectations of how we were going to approach the integration of the firm we were buying. And I would have made it really clear that they were going to have to deal with personalities that that were not expecting. They were going to have to deal with upset employees because we're buying a firm and the selling owner hasn't told the employees that they're selling the company. So they have upset employees. We're going to have to deal with old systems that are going to annoy us. And frankly, we're going to have to keep going for a while until we can get our integration complete. So sitting down and setting expectations with my employees and with my leaders of why we're doing this and what the process is going to look like was going to be really important. And I wish I had done more of that and done that better in the first place.
Awesome, dude. What's your advice to other, CEOs or entrepreneurs right now about the importance of failing or failure and becoming successful in business?
Yeah, at the end of the day, like failing, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You are going to fail. And if you never fail in the process, you are one in a billion person that exists on the planet, or you're psycho and you have ignored the fact that you have failed, right? So you're going to fail. It really is a matter of, do you have the character and have you prepped yourself to learn when it happens? Can you learn from it so that you don't make the same mistake? That's really what's really important. So don't be afraid to fail. It's a part of the growing process. It's a part of every successful company in history. And then really prepare yourself, your own mental state, your own emotional state, your physical state, in order to absorb that failure and be prepared to learn from it.
Sage advice, brother. What about books, tools, and resources, podcasts, and shit like that you recommend?
Yeah, that's great. There's a great podcast called How to Exit. The podcast is all about buying and selling businesses. So if you're in the interest or the stage of wanting to buy or sell a business, whether you're new to business or not, it's a great place to learn and think and grow. And then I listen to a lot of accounting podcasts. So The Accounting Podcast is that's one of the main ones. It's the top one in the US. It's a great podcast, especially if you want insight into the accounting industry. It's a great one to learn from.
Cool. I shall not be catching that podcast. Do you know what's funny, dude? Like, I actually don't have time, dude. Like, I literally don't have time to even consume a single hour of another person's show. And there's 2 million shows out there now,
That's crazy.
But I think, and I know there's advantages and disadvantages, whatever, but like, I actually think that these sorts of conversations, because I have so many of these things every week, that it's enough for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I learned so much about so many different perspectives, because I do believe that, because I know you're building this thing to sell it, I'm sure.
Yes.
And so that's the type of entrepreneur that you are. You and me are the same. We build companies to sell them. And then you start another one. Other guys are like one-hit wonders, right? So the stars must align and they must make $1 billion or whatever their number is. And that's it. Like, they don't get part 2. There's no plan B. There's only plan A.
Right.
And so I recognize, what you're trying to do. But I do think it all comes down to perspective, right? So because remember, like, you don't know. So like, you acquired that one and went to shit, whatever. Like, and I think that as long as you're rich in perspective, like, you can always generate wealth. But if you're poor in perspective, you'll always be poor. And and that for me is that's what podcasts really are. It's like a whole arsenal of perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, and I would say one last one is I would listen to religiously every week is the All In podcast, and so that's a great one. It's become one of the top podcasts in the U.S. and I don't know about the world, but at least in the U.S. And it's 4 investor billionaires that talk every week together about startups, small business, M&A. So it's a great one to listen to.
Beautiful, dude. Well, look, congrats on all your success so far, man. And Mike, I'm super excited to see where you're going to go, brother.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Anytime. Everybody else, we'll see you again soon. Cheers for now.